All right. Well, welcome everyone to today's webinar called Research Smart, Finding Articles in the Library. Um, my name is Faye Callista, and I'm the Instruction Engagement Librarian here at the Chicago School. So today I thought we would take some time to look at the different places that we can find articles in the library. We're going to talk a little bit about choosing an appropriate database for your topic. We're going to spend some time choosing keywords. So how do you choose keywords? I think that's one of those things that I think students sometimes have trouble with, trying to figure out what keywords to use in a search. So we'll kind of cover that. And I'll give you some tips along the way. We'll also look at how to refine your search. And there's lots of different ways that you can do that. We'll also talk about managing your citations, not really in depth, but kind of give you just a basic overview of some ways that you can manage your citations that will really help you save time, help you create citations at APA format and so forth. And then we'll also look at where to find help if you run into any roadblocks. So hopefully by the end of the session today, you'll come away knowing at least something new or useful that you'll be able to apply in your future research. This presentation should take about, I would say, 30 minutes, depending on, how many questions you have. You can ask questions at any point during the webinar. So feel free to either raise your hand and I can unmute you, and then we'll all be able to hear your question, whether you're using a phone or a headset. Otherwise, if you're not comfortable doing that, you can also just type your question. And I'll keep an eye on questions as they come in. So feel free to just jump in anytime. Even if if you want me to repeat something that I just covered, or if I'm going too fast or so forth. And then I'll also provide some time at the end for questions as well. So if you just want to hold your questions until then, that's totally fine. Does anybody have any questions before we get started? All right. All right. So first of all, we'll look at where to find articles. So you'll notice that in the online library, there's a couple of different places you can go to find articles. Probably the one that we're all familiar with is the search screen right here at the sort of middle of the page. You'll notice that you can click on the articles tab here, and you should be able to, enter some keywords and get articles as results. But that is not the only way to find articles. And I'll actually go back to this later in the presentation, but I wanted to show you another place where you can find articles. And there are some differences between using the search here in the middle of the page and then going to our databases, which you will find either under Discover and then databases A through Z. You'll notice that we have about 315 databases in here. So it's a lot of resources. You'll also notice that we have a link here for databases A through Z underneath the search here as well. So if you just click on databases A through Z, it takes you to the same place. It's kind of a quick link. All right. So you just noticed that we have like 315 databases, right? It's a lot. So you might be wondering, well, where should I look? We do have it kind of, we have ways to narrow it down by subject. So for example, if you're in organizational leadership or business, we have it broken down by business or economics. for example. And you'll notice that at the very top, we have the recommended databases. So those are sort of like the ones that we sort of either are the most popular or the ones that we recommend. A lot of you are in psychology, so if you click on the psychology and counseling link, you'll notice that there are 48 different databases listed there, and these are sort of the recommended databases. If you're not sure what database to search, because there still are so many choices, you can always ask a librarian as well. So, you know, for psychology, for example, usually I recommend if you're looking for articles to go to PsycInfo, for example, because that is the most comprehensive database in psychology. If you're in business, I would recommend, for example, the ABI Inform Global database or the Business Source Elite database. You know, and you'll notice that each of these databases are slightly different, right? So, you know, the ABI Inform Global database, for example, is sort of the most comprehensive business database, right? That includes coverage of lots of different publications, right? But you'll notice the one above it, you know, that one kind of includes more sort of regional business publications or newspapers. Or if you scroll down a little bit further, you'll notice, okay, this one is a sort of more market research, for example. So it really kind of depends on what you're looking for. All right. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. Oops. All right. So the next step is, you know, you have your research question, right? And you kind of know maybe which database to search in. And we'll look at those databases in more depth a little bit later. But really, like, one of the most important steps really is to think about, you know, what keywords are you going to search or use in your search? And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute, but I found this video that I thought kind of broke down the strategy in a really great and easy to comprehend way. So let's take a look here.
We are used to typing anything into Google and it providing us with an adequate answer. For example, this will be good enough to tell you how to fix a puncture or which restaurant we should eat in. However, for your assignments and research, it is vital to create a more detailed search strategy in order to find all the relevant materials on your topic. First, we need to identify the keywords to search for. Let's go through the process with an example. Your research question is, what is the evidence for the use of reminiscence therapy with older adults who have dementia? The keywords here are. Once you have identified your keywords, it is time to think of other ways to describe them. Consider synonyms, words that mean the same thing, singulars and plurals, variant spellings, and related terms. Using a thesaurus can help to identify other relevant words. By identifying alternative keywords to search for, we are trying to widen our search to get the best results. Remember, your search will evolve, and you may identify further keywords as your search progresses. Looking at our earlier question, we identified our keywords as reminiscence therapy, older adults, and dementia. These are just some of the alternative terms that could be used. Now that we have a search strategy, we can use this to begin searching the relevant databases. For further information, please contact your librarian.
All right, so let me go back here to, oops. Hold on. Get back to my screen here. There we go. Okay, so let's take a look at how that looks when we search in a database. So I'm going to open up the library database here. All right. Now this video actually talked about, the subject was reminiscence therapy and older adults with dementia. So first we have to think about, so what database would we search in? It sort of sounds like therapy, right? Or reminiscence therapy sounds like it kind of falls within the psychology subject area, right? So we can go to our databases here and then go to psychology. And earlier I was talking about how PsycInfo, right, is one of the sort of top databases here in psychology. So let's pick that one. All right. And then we can go ahead and type our search. So reminiscence therapy, and we'll do dementia. Or let's say if it was, I don't know, we'll do Alzheimer's. That's our, okay. Whenever I search in ProQuest, here's a little tip for you. I mean, you could certainly search the default, which is in anywhere, but sometimes I like to change that actually to anywhere except full text. And that is because if you leave it for just in anywhere, what that does is it's going to look for those keywords anywhere where it appears in the article. So not just the title or the abstract, but the entire article. However, by changing it to anywhere except full text, now it's going to look for those keywords in the title or the abstract, the subject, the keywords, but not the entire article. So you're going to get fewer articles, but they're probably going to be more relevant. So that's one tip that I have for you. If you're not sure what keywords to use, or if you want to look at those like sort of synonymous terms, as we saw in that video, you can definitely take a look at the thesaurus. It sometimes is helpful because it'll give you the subject terms, either related subject terms, narrower subject terms, or related. So let's go ahead and see, reminiscence. Make sure I'm typing that correctly. All right, so it looks like this is a subject. And actually I can click on this and it kind of gives you a little note here. And then it gives you some related terms. Now this is really helpful, and sometimes it'll give you narrower terms or broader terms. It really just depends on the term. Sometimes it's not really helpful because you've got like the right term. And in this case, I think, this is still gonna be a really good term to use. But if we did actually want to use this as a subject term rather than, a keyword, we can do that as well just by check marking the box and then clicking add to search. So now we're searching for that as a subject. So let's put Alzheimer's here again. So that's your sort of basic search. All right. That gives you 57 results, so not a lot, and we didn't even narrow it down to journal articles because you'll notice that PsycInfo includes some dissertations and some book chapters and books. So we can definitely click on journals and that'll narrow it down even a little bit more. Now, what if we use dementia instead of Alzheimer's? So we can definitely do that. Let's see how that changes the results. Okay, so that actually gave us some more results. And this I kind of wanted to show you sort of how different search terms can give you different results. So that's why it's so helpful, you know, as you sit down, like right before you do your search, really think through your research question and think like, what are the main concepts of your research question and how are some different ways that you can phrase those keywords or those search terms. And don't worry if you don't come up with all of the different sort of keywords. You know, sometimes it's a matter of just doing the search itself, and sometimes you'll find additional sort of keywords that way as you search. So, and one of the ways that I do that, there's a couple different ways. So you can either, let's see here, I'm going to click on journals again because I don't want to see those. I might want to see books and dissertations, but for the purpose of this presentation, I'm just going to look at, and we didn't, you know, we can still further refine our search in lots of different ways, but let me just focus for now on the keywords. So, I mean, hopefully this is a good, you know, set of results. But if it weren't, like let's say I wasn't really finding much on my topic, even if you find like one or two sort of really good articles or articles that are relevant to your research, you know, go ahead and take a look at, you know, the abstract or the details for that article. So for example, here's like a, let's see here. So you can click on the sort of title. And then you have your abstract here. And then if you scroll down, you'll notice that there are some details, which include different subjects and sometimes keywords. So take a look at that. Like if you're not finding enough on your topic, you can definitely, I would say, either use fewer key terms or change the key terms that you're using. So maybe the particular keywords that you're using is not quite the right combination. Are there some different keywords that you can use? And you'll notice here too, so for example, I mean, I know that I didn't use the word therapy in my search, and I certainly could do that. We might get some really good results that way. But there's also other words that might be related, like interventions, for example, or here's psychosocial interventions as a keyword. Interventions also a subject, quality of life. I mean, so there's lots of, depending on kind of what you're looking for, as I said, there's lots of different ways that you can sort of phrase those key terms. I mean, they sometimes mean slightly different things, but to sort of cast a wider net, those are some of the strategies you can use. All right, any questions so far? All right, so as you go through your research results, especially if you get too many, there's lots of different ways that you can refine your search. And I know there's nothing like, you know, honestly, one of the things that I think some students find the most frustrating is like plowing through a bunch of results that aren't relevant, right? So there's lots of really great ways to refine your search. So we'll look at that again for another, like we can do another search in the database. and look at like things that we can do when you get too many results. We talked a little bit about when you get too few results. So if you, at least find one article that's relevant to your search, we'll look at the abstract or we'll look at the keywords and the subjects associated with that. But there's other different ways that you can limit. So, we limited it to either peer reviewed or some other type of document. Maybe we're looking just at dissertations. You can also limit to a type of document or even methodology in some of the databases, like are you looking for literature reviews or case studies? You can also limit by subject, and I'll show you how to do that. It's really a great way to limit a search if you have too many results. You can also limit by population or by age group. In a lot of cases, you can limit by language or location. So let's take a look at that. So again, we're going to go to the library, and then we're going to go back to our PsycInfo search. Let's just do a different search here. Let's see here. Let's try. All right, so we've got dementia, do therapy. That's a really broad search, right? We're not gonna, like if we're not doing reminiscence therapy, for example, maybe we just wanna look at different types of therapy for dementia. So those are our keywords, and you generally want to have between 2 and 4 keywords. Any more than that, you are not going to get very good results. And obviously, if you use just one keyword, usually it's too much. So 2 to 4 is usually a good amount. All right, so that's a huge number of results, right? 10,815. Obviously, we can limit by date, so maybe we want to look at the most recent research. We can certainly do that. So maybe we want to look at the last 6 years, for example. So we still have a lot of results, right? 3,200 results. One of my favorite ways to limit a result actually is by subject, especially if I start out a little broader and I'm not quite sure what subjects or keywords to kind of use in my search. So if you click on subject, click on that little drop-down menu, and then click more. You'll notice that it takes those 3,000 results that you just got and it breaks it down by subject. So this is a really great way to sort of narrow it down. You'll notice there's a lot that have to do with drug therapy. Let's scroll down and see what other kind of interventions. I mean, we could click intervention as a keyword. Certainly treatment outcomes is another one, although that probably does include drug outcomes. We could look at quality of life, or let's see here, treatment. So here we have some different therapies. So we've got music therapy, for example. Let's see what else we have here. There's occupational therapy. There's exercise, maybe as an intervention. There's client-centered therapy. So you kind of get the idea. And sometimes you'll find that there are some subjects, you can click on multiple ones, and some of them are synonymous or at least related. So it definitely pays to kind of go through here and take a look at how you can sort of narrow by subject. So we've picked a few, and we could click apply. And now we're looking at some different articles on therapies for dementia. All right. And we, of course, could narrow this down further if we wanted to. Maybe there's another specific aspect that we want to look at. You'll notice that if you scroll down further, You can also narrow it down by age group, and different databases give you different options. Obviously, in a business database, you might have some sort of business-specific limiters. And of course, in PsycInfo, you'll have some sort of limiters that are more specific to psychology, like age group, for example. So maybe we want to look at just the very old. As far as methodology, maybe we want to look at, empirical studies. You'll notice that there are lots of different methodologies here if you're looking for something specific. There's even a way to limit by language. Probably all of these are in English, but sometimes when you get a lot of results, you'll find that some of the results are in different languages as well. So if you just want English, you can do that here. All right. So really, one of my favorite ways of limiting a search is this by subject. I find that it's really helpful, instead of being too specific, to start out your search a little broader and then use this as a way to kind of narrow it down. Because as I said, even as a librarian, and I do lots of these types of searches, um, I don't always know exactly what's going to be the right combination of keywords when I start my search, and that's okay. It's just, using these tools is really helpful. And then kind of like as you do your research, you'll sort of find, um, take a look at those abstracts and see if there's any other keywords that you can use. It's research is definitely a process, right? Um, so sometimes it takes us a few tries before we kind of hit on the right sort of combination of search terms. All right, any questions so far? A couple other tips that I have for you as you're going through your search results and you're, sort of looking for additional articles on your topic. Definitely helps to take a look at the references for those articles that you find, especially if it's a newer article. It might be really helpful to look at those references because you'll find most likely some additional articles that are relevant to your topic. The other place to look too is the cited by. So for example, this particular article has been cited 13 times since it was published in 2015. So, looking at those articles that have cited this one, you'll maybe find additional articles that are on your topic, so that can be helpful. And then it also kind of gives you an idea of maybe how the sort of research on that topic has changed or evolved. So that can be really helpful as well. So those are a couple of tips that I have. All right. Let me go back to my presentation here, just a second. All right, so we just took a look at lots of different ways that you can refine your search. And as I mentioned, there's definitely some differences between the databases. And I did want to point out actually that the reason why I sort of pointed you to the databases is you'll notice that there are lots of different ways that you can refine your search. And compare that to when you're searching this tool right here, the discovery tool. I mean, this is great if you're just looking for a few articles, but you'll notice that there are fewer ways that you can kind of limit your search. It doesn't give you as many options. And I think that's why, sometimes you'll get better results, or you'll find that your searches are sort of easier to sort of sort using the databases rather than this search on the main library page. Does that make sense? All right, I just got a question, and is the cited by feature available with all the databases? That's a really good question. And the answer is Some of them, not quite all of them. It really depends on the database. You'll notice that you find that a lot in PsycInfo and let's say the ABI Inform database, but it won't give you that for all of the articles, and certainly not all the databases will do that. So yeah, that's a really good question. And that's actually one of the another advantage actually of using the databases, or at least some of the databases depending on your topic, rather than this search right here. I mean, if we were to do a search on dementia and let's say reminiscence therapy, I mean, we'll probably get some good results here. And sometimes this is totally fine. Oops, spelled that wrong. Nice of it to, so we've got definitely got some results, but as you've noticed, it doesn't tell you the references or the cited by, right? Um, and as far as like limiting or refining your search further, I mean, you do have some options here. You can limit by year, by language, but beyond that, there's not a lot of options here. So that's that's another advantage, I think, of using the online databases. Oh, I'm sorry. I think I paused my screen and you didn't see me do that. So yeah, I just wanted to show you that this search definitely is a little different and I think limited in the way that you can limit it. All right. All right. So as you're finding articles, I have some tips for you as well on how to manage your citations. Now, this can be an entire webinar in and of itself. And in fact, we are running this webinar just on managing your citations in June. So keep your eye out for that. I can actually email you all as well with the date for that webinar. But just really briefly, just to kind of show you some of the options that you have. Let me go to the library website here, just really quickly. So back to our library website, you'll notice that we have under My Accounts, there's a link here for RefWorks. So that's one of your options. And RefWorks is basically, it's very similar to EndNote and to Mendeley and some other citation managers that enable you to kind of store or save all of your citations in one place. There's also some functionality within those tools to use your citations as you write your paper. So they kind of integrate with your word processor, whether you use Word or different word processor. RefWorks is just one of the ones that, I mean, we subscribe to RefWorks, but there's other free ones. So, and the other option that you have is within the databases. So back to our earlier search, what you can do here is you can create an account here at the top right-hand corner of the screen. It's called My Research. If you're using some of the different other databases in the library, like their EBSCOhost databases, those are very similar. Also in the top right-hand corner, there should be a link where you can create an account. And it just takes a minute to create one. The nice thing about that is then as you're doing your searches, you can save your articles just by clicking on, like check marking the boxes. They get saved to your folder. You can create different folders for different subjects if you like. You can even save your searches, which is fantastic, especially like for, you know, when we were talking about our topic earlier. You know, maybe we have a couple of different sets of keywords that we want to use. We can save each of those searches. And it's really great too, because oftentimes our research doesn't all doesn't take place in one sitting, right? Sometimes we do it over the course of days or weeks or even months if we're doing our dissertation. So this way you can sort of save each of the searches that you're doing, go back to them later. Maybe you don't have time to go through them right now because you're about to have dinner. So you can just go ahead and save it. And then that gets saved to your account. And then the other nice thing about this too, of course, is as you're saving your articles to your folders, and then you're ready to write your paper, you could go back through the citations that you've saved and then create a list of your references in APA format, which is really nice. So for example, I didn't sign in yet, so I can actually do this here as well by clicking on Cite, and then that puts that in APA. I think they're supposed to add 7th edition. I don't know why they haven't already. I'll have to ask about that. But anyway, so here's your list of citations in APA format. You always want to double check and make sure that it is in fact correct. Sometimes you'll find little errors. So you still have to know your APA format, but it definitely, I think, is a time saver. Since I didn't sign in, actually, the minute I close this window, these all disappear. But if you sign in, you can actually save those and go back to them later. All right. Any questions about managing your citations? I know that was really quick, but I just wanted to show you that that is an option. I think that definitely, I think it saves time. I know some people email their citations to themselves, which is fine if that works for you, or if you save them on your flash drive. I know some people do that or save them to the computer. But if you work in more than one place, you know, I think something like this can be really helpful because you can access this from anywhere where you have an internet connection. All right. If you ever have questions about managing your citations, certainly you can also contact the library and we can help you with that as well. And speaking of help, there's lots of different ways that you can get it in the library. You can call us, you can email us, you can text us, you can chat with us. And we can do research consultations over GoToMeeting, which means we can like share screens and sort of spend more time, especially if you're doing sort of more in-depth research or if you need a research consultation for your dissertation, or it can be for really any reason. I mean, even if you're having a hard time choosing what keywords to use in your search, or if you're not sure what database to use, you can definitely set up a meeting and we can go over that with a librarian. So all of that information is on the library website under Find Help. So there's our email, you can text, schedule an appointment with a librarian. This is really fantastic because you know, all of our schedules are like right there. So you can click on the calendar and then choose a time to meet. And then that time is reserved just for you. And you'll get a link to GoToMeeting. So it's really convenient. And you can choose any one of us librarians for your research consultation. So whether it's the librarian they're most familiar with, the librarian who's nearest to you, or the one that has the appointment time that you need. And you'll notice here as well that we have our chat feature, which is another great way to contact the librarian if you need help, or actually not just the librarians, but our chat is also manned by our graduate assistants. So, and these are really great for general questions about the library, interlibrary loan questions, locating a specific article or database, and other sort of more like sort of quick questions. As I said, if you have more sort of in-depth research help, then setting up an appointment probably is your best option, or emailing us, whichever works for you. All right. And one more note about asking for help. I can probably, I speak for myself and I'm pretty sure for the other librarians as well, that we actually really love getting questions from students. Um, for me, it's like my favorite part of my job. I welcome um, that time, or I welcome helping students with just about any question that you have. So if you ever feel like hesitant or shy about reaching out, I just want to say don't. Like, that's what we're here for. All right, so that was our quick overview of how to find articles in the library. Does anybody have any questions at this point? Yeah, Jasmine, I hope I'm not pronouncing that incorrectly. Do you have a question? Looks like you're muted already, so I won't be able to hear you. You can either unmute yourself or you can type your question. All right, I think
Hi.
I can. Hi.
Hi. Well, let's see. Sometimes I'll see an article that I really like and I can't even get it. I'm
Great
just wondering
question.
about that.
Great question. So yeah, if you ever come across an article that is not available full text, um, there are options oftentimes to get it. So first, you can always check with us just to make sure that maybe, we can confirm for you whether or not it's available in the library. And the next thing that you can do is order it through Interlibrary Loan. So it's a free service available through the library. Um, there's a couple of different ways that you can request an article through Interlibrary Loan. So either you can go to My Accounts and then click on Interlibrary Loan, and that's where you can just type in sort of, you can create your request here and then fill in the form. An easier way, perhaps, to do that is to, like, maybe you're doing your search in some of the databases. Let me see if I can find one that isn't full text. I can show you what that looks like here. So maybe this one, for example, I'm going to click on that 360 link. So if it isn't available full text, you might get a page like this where it says, sorry, this item is not available online. So below, you'll notice there's a link here to log in to ILL. So again, like you can click on that link. That takes you to our interlibrary loan service. In this case, it's all filled out for you, which is nice. And then it's just a matter of clicking submit request. And it just looks like you didn't see that, did you?
No.
Sorry about that. Let me go back here to, sorry about that. Sometimes I don't see when my screen isn't showing. So here's our search results. And let's say we wanted this particular article. So we're going to click on that link just to see if it's available somewhere full text. And if it isn't, then here's that full text, interlibrary loan link. So it's all filled out and then you click submit request. The other way that you can submit your request is through My Accounts and then check interlibrary loan account. All right. Did that answer your question? It
Yes.
usually takes anywhere from, I would say, a day or two up to about a week. And I know with the COVID-19 situation, some of the libraries are sort of short-staffed. So, I'm finding that our response times are a little bit slower, but it's not terrible. Like you can still get your article fairly quickly, I think.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, that was a good question. Any other questions? All right. Well, I'll stick around for a couple more minutes in case anyone else has any questions. Otherwise, thank you so much for attending. I hope it was helpful. And as I said, I know that was a lot of information, and feel free to contact us if you have any further questions. Have a great rest of your day.